Literally two of my favorite people in the entire world. There's nobody that I'd rather go get coffee and brunch with when I'm hanging out in Scottsdale than these two. And if you're on YouTube, you're going to see how adorable they are because they're literally wearing matching shirts. So Jill and Mary, welcome to the show, girls.
What's
Hi,
up,
honey.
Jess and friends?
And friends. It feels like it would be silly to not say welcome to everybody else. Hi, everyone. We're super excited to be here, Jess.
Yay. All right. Give us a soundbite for a second so we can tell who's who. So just give us a little hello individually and maybe something, a mic drop moment right off the bat.
We literally have morphed into the same person, so it can be a little confusing, but you are listening to Mary's voice. I have 3 Yorkshire Terriers.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. This voice is Jill, and I'm a mom of 2. I'm a boy mom, even though we're going to get into our business. That's all girl centric. I'm also a wife and just a fun enthusiast. If there is a place for me to have fun, I'm your girl.
If you couldn't tell by the DJ noises.
I would have to say that is 1000% true. In fact, the first time that we ever hung out, we like just met. We ended up at your house dancing around like idiots to Carly Rae Jepsen, not the Call Me Baby song.
Call Me Maybe?
Maybe no. It was a hot beat.
It was. I'll have to think of what it was.
It'll come to us.
If it weren't
Why
for
is it slipping my
copyright
mind?
infringement issues, I would totally play it on this episode, but I'm sure we'd get in trouble. So
Totally.
we love you, Carly.
We love you. Shout out, Carly.
CRJ, baby.
All right, let's get into it. So Girls Mentorship is really centered around the fact that both of you, myself included, have become the mentor that you wish you had. I'm not saying that I became that mentor, saying I wish I had a mentor like you when I was a young gal. So who exactly is it that you serve? What's the age range of gals? And then really just give us a quick debrief on how this was even built and why you decided, you know what? Yeah, we're in a time like today, we're going to run out and help all these girls.
Honestly, it's younger Jill and Mary. So if we look back at who we were in middle school and high school, we're seeing some of the same problems today in terms of a lack of confidence, a lack of self-esteem, a lack of self-awareness, communication skills, on and on and on and on. So really we focus in on girls ages 10 to 18, those super impressionable years where we're forming our personality, we're forming our identity, we're forming our beliefs and how we see the world. We want to infuse personal growth and development skills into these girls long before we ever learned what that phrase ever meant. So basically we walked so they can run, so they can pick themselves up when they fall down, so they can handle conflict gracefully, so they can, go after that promotion when they get to a working age and not be fearful of their coworkers and not going after the opportunity because they might not feel like they're enough. We want to nip that in the bud right away. And the story begins in 2020. Realistically, I feel like the story began when we were born, but the story really begins in 2020.
I'll get my coffee. We can go back. Let's do it.
Forward to that part.
We'll fast forward to 2020. We're ingrained in the entrepreneurial space here in Arizona, and it is hustling and bustling. Women are moving and grooving. They're doing things. They're helping other women. And I think Jill and I, really got caught up in that and like wanting to help other women start businesses because it was like everyone else was doing it, but it didn't fit for us. Like we kept hitting roadblocks and ceilings and it never just felt right. So lo and behold, 2020 comes along and we were each other's like, ride or dies in that time when everyone else was sheltering in place. I was sheltering in her place, which was great. And over a bottle of champagne one day, as opposed to just asking the question of like, what would we have done with the skills that we have now when we were 12, 13, 14, 15, 25, we decided to act on it. And it was Jill's brilliant idea. And so in that, I'll let her tell the story of how Camp Social came along and where I came in.
Here I come. So my background was I worked at Lululemon for nearly a decade. That's where Mary and I first met. And then I left the company in 2018 to figure out what I wanted to do next. I knew that I loved people and development. That was the thing that I was best in the world at Lululemon. And I wanted to pursue that working with moms. So as I was doing that, moms were like, this is so fantastic. And can you work with my daughter and her dance company or her gymnastics studio? And at the time, I was just saying yes. It was like my buffet year of yes, to then figure out what I wanted to do. So I was starting to work with girl athletes. I was working with basketball teams and golfers and soccer teams, kind of as a performance coach, to strengthen their mindset and build their confidence in tandem with their physical skill. And then 2020 hit, so everything stopped. And that's when Mary and I were hanging out, and I would get phone calls from coaches or parents that I had previously worked with, asking if I was doing anything because their daughters were bored. They just needed a space and a place to do something besides being online and scrolling. So I heard it a few times from a few different people, and that's when I really decided to act on it. And I called it Camp Social. It was going to be a 4-week call series where I wasn't just inviting girl athletes. I was like, well, at this point, everyone's at home. So we're going to invite all girls who wanted to come and join. And I wanted to facilitate this call series not by myself. So Mary, I was like, I know she is a fantastic leader. She has an incredible background. So she was my first person that I called to say, hey, will you lead this 1 week with me? Because I was thinking about asking other people over the 4 weeks. And sure enough, that first week was so magical that we looked at each other and we were like, well, let's finish this out together. That was so good. From the first week to the end of the 4-week call series, it was astonishing watching girls literally not even turn on their camera and their hoods on, and they were hunched over. They were embarrassed to even show their face. To week 4, cameras were on. We were laughing. It was just like
4 weeks.
4 weeks. And it was a 1-hour call. We looked at each other and we knew that we couldn't just be like, okay, well,
yeah,
that was it.
Yeah.
Once we secured girlsmentorship.com, we knew it was over.
We got all the Instagram handles and all the social media things. Yeah. That was.
So I have a question for you as like a business owner, and I hear this fear and this objection so much from our clients and potential clients. That first call, the girls don't have their cameras on. They're not really talking. They're not really engaging. Was there something that both of you or either of you had to do? Was there a conversation that you needed to have to sort of get over the hump of like, how are we going to show up for week 2? How did you not feel devastated or a lack of motivation or kind of wanting to scrap the whole idea? Like, well, that didn't work. I mean, none of them even turned their camera on. How did you push through if there was any resistance at that point for you to keep going? And then also on the other side of the coin, how did you actually get these girls to make such a big shift in 4 weeks?
I mean, I think you have to put it in perspective. Like, you try once and you give up. You have to put in some time and effort in order to see something out. So we had made the agreement to see something out. And by the conversations we had with the parents, we obviously knew things were dire. Everyone was at home. Everyone was not feeling themselves. People probably hadn't changed out of their pajamas in weeks at a time. So I don't think our expectations were super high,
Gotcha.
especially for this demographic, which I think is important to notate going into it. You can't have these sky high expectations. And depending on your clientele or who you're going after, you have to set the targets appropriately for yourself so you don't get disappointed and you're not disappointed in your clientele. But I think over that 4 weeks, the more space, because we had a text thread, like we were constantly communicating with these girls, we got to show them that we cared and we wanted to be a space for them to lean into and grow into. And the fun thing about kids, the fun thing about preteens, teens, they know if you're for them or you're not for them. They are so quick to see You're directly into your soul, and they know if you're bullshitting them or not bullshitting them. And these girls really understood that we cared and wanted to see them succeed, whether it was during that 4 weeks, whether it was beyond that 4 weeks. And I think that gave them permission to show up as themselves, because once they know you care, it's like, boom, okay, we're here to play. I'm excited for this hour, and I can't believe these 4 weeks are over.
Yeah.
And I want to say, we, as Mary and I, we have the tool set. That's why we wanted to start this call series, was because we were equipped to handle a pandemic and to be okay in the unknown and the scariness of what the world was telling us what was going on. So we, as adults, we're navigating our own feelings, but we felt really strongly that like we were going to get through it. And we sitting in my kitchen, we were like, well, what are these kids doing? Who's supporting them? So I also feel like it was kind of like our due diligence to teach them something of what we have in order for them to just see the light at the end of the tunnel, because there was so much going on in the world at that time. And we wanted to empathize with them and say, we know how hard it is. And for them to just feel seen, heard, and valued, and then give them a little something to look forward to, was the highlight of
our weeks.
Of our weeks. So I just wanted to also share that around how many people were suffering without the tool belt or the tool set that we had. And it was really fun to reach our hand back to serve these girls that we once were.
Yeah. When you were their age, did you have these skills and these tools of self-confidence and how to navigate friendships and difficult conversations and coping skills, or were these things that you gained later in your adult years?
As much as I'd love to sit here on the other end of this screen and be like, I was a very well-polished 13-year-old, I was not. I was a disaster. I come from a very tumultuous background. My parents got a divorce when I was 9, thankfully, because there was a ton of domestic violence involved in my parents' marriage as I was growing up. Drug abuse, alcoholism, you name it, it's been a part of my story. So coping skills lacked, the ability to have dialogue that was at like a reasonable level, to have healthy conflict. I couldn't communicate my way out of a paper bag. I was a disruption in class. I came off as I was confident. I put on this front like I was a tough girl. And people bred into that. They like hyped me up. So of course my ego got more and more inflated, but on the inside, hell no, absolutely not. I didn't have these skills. I didn't have these skills until honestly my first personal growth and development seminar in 2016. So if we're looking at that, that's 7 years ago. I'm 35. So do the math. That's when I was 28.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I really learned what this whole world meant. I viewed it as like self-help. I don't need help. I'm fine, right? Yeah. Like the jagged, rough edge, like no one's going to tell me what to do because I've made it this far on my own type of attitude. So no way. No how.
What about you, Jill?
Oh, I just laugh because no, I actually had a great childhood, but I suffered just pleasing people. I was confident, but I also was at the beck and call of everybody just because I wanted to fit in and be liked. And I also had a pretty amazing ability to read a room and just become the chameleon so no one really noticed me, or when people would notice me, like I just knew where I needed to kind of weasel my way in.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I was 18 that really like all of that came to a head when my parents got a divorce. So my story really cracked open for me to discover who I was. When I looked at a 25-year marriage of my mom and dad, and I was like, well, if
If that can happen.
If that can happen, like I can't trust no man. And I then self-sabotaged everything moving forward. And that was when I was in college. And
Yeah.
it wasn't until I found Lululemon when I first heard of personal growth and development, and they were like talking about goals. And I'm like, excuse me? I don't even know what that is.
I don't know how to spell that.
And then it was just, I got like a small piece of it. I noticed how I felt, and then it was just, I became hooked.
Yeah.
And it was all that I wanted to do in undoing the programming and the behaviors that I have put on myself, or I've borrowed from other people or family members. And I just, I wanted to completely rewrite my story.
I don't know much about that company other than obviously like their clothing, and whether you're listening and love them or don't love them, it doesn't matter. What I know is that every single person that I know that has worked for the company has an incredible leadership skill set, incredible personal development interest. And I know about 5 different entrepreneurs who all came from corporate Lulu and like just crush in communication and leadership. And it's wild. So I mean, shout out to them. I don't know what it was like working there. We don't have to get into it, but there's like a theme, there's a pattern of the people that I know who came from their corporate side. It's just phenomenal talent of managing people and communication and skills. So shout out to them.
100%.
You're looking at 2 of them.
Yeah. Oh, so actually that's right. I guess I know like 7, and I'm not talking about, I have so many trainer friends who are ambassadors, but actual like corporate side, corporate leadership side, just incredible. So good on them. And I'm so glad
shout
for
out
you.
Lulu. 100%. Yeah. Me too.
That's awesome.
I will forever be grateful for the path that they set for me.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah. So will I, and all of the parents of the children that you're impacting, whether you're impacting them, at your actual summer camps or with what you have coming up, or just on the internet in general. So I want to go there for a second. You have an interesting business model because you are targeting a different audience than maybe who you're creating content for. So ultimately you're targeting these teen and tween girls, but really a lot of your content, I'm guessing from the looks of me, watching it, is really to the parent, because the parent ultimately is the decision maker and, the credit card, for lack of a better term. So has that been challenging? How do you navigate that? Do you ever create content for, we'll say, the girls? And if not, then like, where are you actually building some of that know, like, and trust with them? Is it only when they're working with you? I mean, there's a lot I want to unpack here, but do you find it challenging to be sort of creating and selling to one audience, but really serving a different audience?
I think the challenge really lies in the fact that we didn't know that at first. I think when you're headstrong, like the both of us are, and you decide to get into a business, you just dive right in. And you don't look at the logistics, or you just have the heart for it. And we had the passion for it. And we were like, let's go. We're doing this, pedal to the metal. It's been within the last year that we've really honed in on our marketing and who we need to talk to. Clearly, we understand that our programming came from our parents. So yes, do the girls need our coaching? Do the girls need our products and services? 1,000% they do. However, if we spend a week with them at summer camp, and we're drilling in these concepts, and they're having light bulb moments, and they're leaving feeling like they're on cloud 9, but they go home and their parents have no idea how to relate to them or reinforce what we taught, then none of it matters. It gets washed away. None of it matters. So we've really had a realization that, yes, the parents are the ultimate decision maker. However, we really have to teach them the exact same thing that we're teaching their daughters as well, if we want it to last, if we want lasting change to come out of it. So it's twofold. We make content, we write copy for parents in order for them to see the importance of getting their daughters enrolled. And then upon enrollment is really where Jill and I get to shine with the girls, because obviously, if you haven't noticed from just this episode alone, like, we have a passion for it, but our energy is, we match energies with girls. We're very open. We're very welcoming. It might be a little much for some girls right out of the gate, but we have an incredible ability to loop them into what we're doing, our overall mission and vision for where we want them to go. which is cool because you get to see the walls come down with most of them very, very quickly, whether we're online, whether we're in person. And it takes a couple interactions with the rest of them, the more introverted girls. But like I said earlier, when girls understand that you're for them and you're not trying to get something out of them or whatever that may be, they're a lot quicker to trust you as an adult. If you can speak their language, if you can crack jokes that they understand, it's pretty cool how quickly that relationship can transpire. So I would say definitely more focus on getting the parents on board, because the notion of like, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. If a mom has never heard of what personal growth and development is or why it's important, she's not going to make the connection as to why she should enroll her daughter in something similar.
Yeah.
So we have to break down the barrier of that first, and then like really pump information to her as to why it's important before we get her enrolled.
Are you offering programs for the parents or programs where they're both there, where it's parent and daughter, or is it only for the girls?
Well, yes, we are. It's been only girls
Mother-daughter workshops.
Mother-daughter workshops, but there hasn't been like ongoing outside of just mother-daughter workshops, where our summer camps and monthly workshops, we had more touch points with girls. So I think we spoke to girls more. But over these last 3 years, we're starting to have these moments of like, oh my gosh, we have to start talking to the parents. So this next phase of Girls Mentorship is really taking parents on their own track so that they can start to embrace the language and start practicing the work themselves to know how to support their daughter. In addition to, if they do want to take a course together with her. So we're definitely on that track because we want to solve we want to shorten the gap. We're seeing it as such a, okay, we're putting in all of this effort, but then it just gets like 10, then we have to take 10 steps back. So how do we get ahead of it and have it be exciting for parents to participate in it? And that's the next work that we're going to be doing.
That is super exciting. I can't wait to see that unfold.
Well, and I was just going to also say really quickly, parents are interesting. There's a lot, and I'm sure you can probably relate to different client avatars, but there are different parents that we speak to, which has been really interesting for us to like, okay, we have like 4 or 5 different types of parents.
Yep.
So how do we speak to each of them so that they're like, oh my gosh, they're really speaking to us?
Yeah.
And that's been really interesting to navigate our copy and our messaging. But at the end of the day, we want them to know how critical it is for them to do the work, because the data and the statistics are out there.
Yeah.
I mean, this generation of parents, myself included, I mean, we are helicopter snowplow parents, and it's detrimental to our kids.
Yeah.
So now we get to talk about the impact of our actions and behaviors
and the repercussions
repercussions, so that they can really start to wake up and be like, oh my gosh, this actually matters.
I better pump the brakes.
Yeah. I love that you have the awareness of knowing that there are these like slightly nuanced different avatars. This is something that we talk about all the time. I teach that there are 10 different types of learners and there are 6 different types of buyers. And when you can understand that psychology, it's not even necessarily different avatars. It's just we all learn and buy in different modalities, and we all have different ways, like multiple ways inside of us, right? So for something that you want and need or that you desire, you're going to buy it pretty instantly. You know that you want and need it. If you're not so sure about it, you're skeptical, you're going to become a skeptical buyer, where maybe you like need more details, you need more time to sleep on it, ask for a sign from the universe, right? So depending on the perceived value is also dependent on then how you react to it and how you what would the word be? How you act on it. So whether it's a piece of content or something that's getting them to stop the scroll or read through a sales page or purchase something. Okay. I want to talk for a second about social media, because we're slightly, I guess we're technically millennials. I don't know. I'm the year on the cusp. I'm the year on the cusp. So we'll go with it. I have a hard time.
We're elder millennials.
40 years old. I'm not saying I'm a millennial, but okay, fine. So we're on this interesting side of things where, for me at least, I didn't have social media in college. I definitely didn't have it in high school. I mean, Facebook came out when I was a sophomore in college. Not everybody was on it. You had to have a university email account. I actually was one of the few universities that came out first, and none of my friends had it. So I just didn't have to navigate the world with all of these quick instant gratification, Instacart and Uber, just everything that we have now on these phones, which is a great tool, but also could be used as a weapon. So I know how I feel about it. And I know that at almost 40, I have some level of emotional intelligence to be able to detach from it. And it's really hard, even at 40, right? To remove myself, to not compare myself, to not go down this scroll hole, to not have these limiting beliefs, all the stuff that comes with social media. How prevalent is the conversation of social media in what you're doing with the girls? And is it just as clean and cut as like, don't use it, put a timer on it? Or how are you helping parents navigate social media? I mean, it's just such a broad question.
We wish it was clean cut.
I
We
know.
wish we could say, don't do it. Don't give your kids a phone. Don't let them get on social media until they're 37 years old. We can't. Because if you recall, when we were kids, when we were told not to do something, we found a way, and we probably did it twice and took pictures. Like, kids are geniuses. We don't give kids enough credit for how smart and capable they are. And we like to say their capabilities are very neutral in nature. However, it's how they apply them that can be positive or negative, right? So just as a quick example, like Chatty Cathy here. Don't know if you knew that about me yet, but in school, I said I was very disruptive, right? I talked over teachers. I had side conversations. People thought it was funny, so I did it more. No one ever pulled me aside and said, hey, awesome leadership skills in the making. Like, your ability to direct a conversation and use your voice, going to be prime leadership skills in, right?
Yeah.
in your future.
What a redirect.
All I got was, all I was told was go to the principal's office, like in school detention, copying words from the dictionary. I was like, copying words from send me back to class, like right now. So I bring that up because everything is neutral, right? But if a kid is pressed and feels they should have social media because all of their friends do, they will find a way to gain access to it. It might be a burner phone or an old iPod, right? There are thousands of ways that we can have access to it. You can't control everything. You literally are letting them go be with friends at sports, extracurriculars. They will see social media at some point outside of the house and outside of your rules. So you would be better served to start having the conversation with them about how you expect them to act with social media as early as possible, so they are equipped when you allow them access to it. And access for this last generation has literally just looked like, hey, you're 11 years old, happy birthday, have a cell phone. There's been no guardrails on it. There has been no learning on the side of the parents. We liken it to when cigarettes first came out, right? They ran ads legit with Babe Ruth, had a heater in his mouth at home plate. And they were like, hey, yo, you want to be a good baseball player? Babe Ruth hits home runs on these Marlboro Reds, right? We didn't know. Is
that why you wear your baseball shirts today?
That's why we're wearing our baseball Marlboro Red colors,
Catch us later smoking heaters. Just kidding. We've never.
Oh God, Marlboro Reds. I mean, I talk about impressionable. I used to smoke me some Marlboro Reds. I'm not gonna lie, but that is also why we're so good at what we do.
Virginia Slim menthols.
What?
My mom.
Admittedly, I have never touched a cigarette in my entire life. I've never even held one. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you really can't buy them anymore. Yeah. Just kidding, you can. But good for you. No, we were impressionable, So it would be better served to have, like I said, a code of conduct, a contract with your kids, as opposed to just giving them the reins, saying, hey, this thing that I have right here, it is mine, and I am letting you borrow it, which means at any point in time, I can have access to it. I can look at what you're doing, and I'm not doing it to be nosy. I'm not doing it to invade your privacy. On the flip side of that, I am doing it to make sure you're protected, because there are 4 million other people on the other side of that screen who don't care about you and will jeopardize your well-being at the drop of a dime. And you are not equipped enough at this moment to be able to decipher what's good and what's bad.
Yeah.
So social media, as you pointed out, is an incredible tool for connection, but it's a double-edged sword. It can be really, really detrimental, especially in development. So our brains really are fully formed by the time we're 35, our personalities, who we are, whatnot. Kids' frontal lobes, where they're making decisions out of, that's still in development well into their 20s.
Yeah.
So to be able to give them these devices that they have access to all kinds of information without understanding what's real and what's not. You talked about comparing yourself, thinking that you're not enough, needing to keep up with the Joneses. Like, kids can't figure out that people are literally posting their 1% best content.
Well, and that whatever content that they're consuming, the algorithm doesn't care about their mental health. They're like, oh, cool, you're hanging on to these posts. Well, we're going to feed you more of those.
Yeah.
So without really knowing,
I mean, we forget that as adults. Like, you're
100%.
actually curating your own feed based on what you're actually
curating
consuming.
your own feed. Absolutely. And it's just bringing awareness to parents around, like, hey, if you want to give your kids social media, like, we always say, and we learned this from one of our favorite mentors who's in the digital space, like digital literacy space, is when they're ready to look at pornography. That is social media. Like, when your kid is ready to see those type of graphics, then hand over social media and be willing to have the conversation. So when do you want that to happen? And you get to decide and be in control of that.
What would you say are the 3 biggest either like symptoms or challenges that are coming up right now? For example, is it self-confidence? Is it comparison? Is it not feeling enough? I know they're all kind of the same, sides of the same coin, if you will, but what are the 3 biggest struggles that are coming up from social media? What are you hearing from the girls that you work with?
I would say number 1, and we can kind of popcorn it, is feeling left out. Snapchat,
makes me so sad.
Any type, like TikTok, Instagram.
I feel that too, though. I don't know if you ever do.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, have we been working through that in the last year? We sure have.
100%.
Isn't it so bizarre? You're like, I'm 40 years old, but like, why didn't I get invited to that dinner?
Oh, 100%.
Why didn't I get invited? Why didn't you like my posts? Why didn't you tag me?
Why am I not there? Yeah, it's really interesting. So we hear specifically around Snapchat, where girls will be in a group thread together, and then all of a sudden their friends are starting a new group thread, but they're left out without them. And then they're starting to see it not only in the group chat, but then they're starting to see it in their stories. So then that group of friends is now at the birthday party that they didn't get invited to. So it's just in kids' faces all the time. But I would definitely say feeling left out is number 1.
Well, and to add on to that just slightly, when we were growing up, we had a chance to not see our friends. Like, we didn't know what they were doing. We, like, Friday rolled around, maybe they slept over after the football game, right? Like, maybe they came over, but Saturday, guess what we got to do? Get out of my house, go home. I'm not going to see you for 2 days. I had no connection. We had no connection to what they were doing. Saturday, Sunday, Monday rolled around. We got the deets, right? Everyone was like, what did you do this weekend? And then we got to share around the lunch table. Kids now have 24/7 access to what people are doing, where they're doing it, who they're doing it with. And that just overabundance of information coming into their brains.
Yeah, it's exhausting.
Exhausting. There's a huge mental load that comes alongside of it, especially if you don't have any boundaries set or time limits or curfews, if you will. Like, we give our kids rules and regulations outside of the home, have a curfew, be home at 9 because we're scared of what happens after dark. We don't have curfews for our phones. Why not?
Yeah.
And I think we're starting to understand that we need to. But again, back to the whole conversation around cigarettes. we didn't start understanding until a mass amount of people started showing up with lung cancer.
Right.
So it was like, whoa, when did this happen?
Maybe
Well,
we
it's
shouldn't
been
do that.
happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so before we go on to a second, when we talk about this kind of feeling left out or FOMO, what would you say to the person that's listening who maybe is a parent who wants to have a tool for their child, or maybe is just an adult listening who would like a tool? Because my guess is that it's a similar tool. What's something that a parent or an adult can do to take action on when we're feeling left out, when it's triggering us that we're feeling FOMO? I'm assuming you teach something like this.
I mean, first off, we have to really work on refining our self-awareness.
Yeah.
We have to understand when that feeling of, oh my God, I'm left out comes up. And then we have to dive into the reasons why. Because if we don't even know that we're triggered by the thing, we'll just continue to scroll, right? And then whatever's coming up next is just continuing to feed the trigger. So we feel worse and worse and worse and worse, and we can't do anything about it because our self-awareness button didn't go off. So we really have to at least teach parents what the word self-awareness means, which is crazy to even say, but statistically, there have been a couple of studies done on self-awareness, and the numbers that come out of it really paint the picture that 80% of people are walking around unaware or unaware that they're even unaware, which means 20% of people have a true sense of self-awareness. They walk into a room and they can understand, oh, I feel this, I feel that, how am I showing up? They can really direct their internal dialogue to be, whether crowd facing or internal towards themselves. They understand how to navigate that.
Yeah.
So if a parent is unaware, then it's likely that their child will be unaware as well. And that to us is the foundation of understanding these thoughts and feelings that come up when we're scrolling.
Yep.
The second thing is, after we start refining our self-awareness, is to really hone in on like, what type of content is bringing me joy versus what type of content is really draining me. Like, it doesn't matter if it's your best friend. If every time you see a photo of her with somebody else popping up, mute her. It is not worth your mental health. Secondly, it's not worth sabotaging the relationship if that's not what needs to happen. So it's like, you really have to pay attention to the internal dialogue that's happening and know what kind of content is triggering and what type of content is bringing you joy, because we obviously want more of the content coming in that's like joyful and thought-provoking and puts us into action around creating our own life and our own set of skills than we do the content that just keeps us in a hole.
Well, and it's flipping the the FOMO to JOMO. So for parents, it's not, I mean, your daughter just wants you to know, like, she just wants you to empathize with her. Like, man, that stinks. I don't like when I don't get invited to things. And you know what? Like, it's just helping her like shift the perspective. Well, you know what? It really stinks, but like, you probably got left out of the drama and other girls talking about other girls. And
that party probably wasn't that fun.
Party probably wasn't that fun. So how can you just, what did she potentially get left out on that could be positive for her to be like, I actually am kind of glad that I stayed home and I got to cuddle on the couch and we got to binge some Netflix and chill with my mom.
Right.
Well, and
because it's what do you do gain?
And as adults.
Yes.
Oh, 1,000%. Like, how many times have we gone to the party that looked so glamorous on social media and we had a bonk time?
I spent 2 hours getting ready for what?
I didn't want to be here. Like, my mood wasn't great going into it, and I wound up reaping what I sowed. Like, how many times do we see something glamorous on social media that we want to be a part of, and it turns out that it wasn't that great?
I will never forget that. When we were living in New York City, I was going to a lot of like influencer events because I was a fitness influencer. And so I was getting invited to a lot of influencer events with like big brands and gyms and magazines. And I'll never forget the very first one that I went to. It was like such a rude awakening, which again, at 30 something years old, you would have assumed that I would have known this. But you see these events all the time and everyone's tagging these brands and laughing and cheersing and drinking their matcha. And I got to the event and like, no shade on this event, but this is how they all ran. nobody was actually talking to each other. It was just, I'm going in, I'm getting the picture, I'm taking the content, I'm doing my due diligence, and I'm leaving. Like, nobody was real laughing. Nobody was hanging out. Nobody asked you your name. Nobody cared. It was literally just rooms of these, whether they were nano, micro, or mega influencers. It was like, we went in, we did our job, and we would leave. And even during a lot of the fitness classes, some of the requirement was that you were capturing content during the class. So even during the workout itself, like, nobody was working out. You would put your phone up and take like 3 or 4 reps and then go over to your phone and save the thing and then come back, and just to be witnessing it. And then to be on the other side, where sometimes I was running the fitness classes and you're like, this is so bizarre. Like, no one's actually even doing the workout. And it was such a rude awakening. I was probably 33, 34 years old at the time. And it was like, wait a minute, this is actually what's going on. But then I would go home and I'd be on the subway and I'd be watching the stories of the girls who were there. And I'm like, this looks incredible. But I'm like, wait, Jess, you were there. Like, that's not what it, and it wasn't a lie. No one was lying. It was just like this movie that we had created. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I love that you said that, because it's the 2 minutes that we're watching that is like, oh my gosh, this is incredible.
Why didn't I get invited?
Why didn't I get invited?
Yes.
But we don't, but we also need to have the conversations with ourselves around, well, what's going to happen after those 2 minutes?
Right. And
because we know that it's not always going to be like that.
Right.
And we only see that part. So we have to remember about the 2 minutes that come after too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And on the other side of that is also, it's a job. And now it has actually become a job. They're not even called influencers, right? It's like, we're content creators, and part of our job is to create content, and we're marketing machines. And I feel that, because I know how adults are, my assumption is that there are a lot of young gals that you work with who, I hear it a lot, they want to be content creators, they want to be influencers, they want to be full-time. I adore Alex Earl. Love her. I do. I think she's great. But that is something now that people aspire to. It's like, I want to have that job. I want to do what she's doing. And what you don't realize is the amount of work that it takes, which is often the case, right? And no different when I was a trainer. I know you guys are in fitness. I love this spin class. Like, I want to get certified. It's like, okay, cool. But just also know, when you start teaching it, you're no longer going to get to take your 5 p.m. class that you're obsessed with. You're going to be teaching at that time. So this thing that is once like this hobby and this passion that you love, when it turns into a job, depending on where you're working, you also have to fill your classes and hit your numbers, and you got to sub for other people. And it's like, now you're teaching 13 classes a week, and that's exhausting. And so I'm wondering if you're hearing from your girls that there's like this interest and desire to be a creator and to make money online. And I want to do this and I want to do that. But it's also like, yeah, what does that come with? You know, do you ever hear that? Do you talk about that? Because even you two,
absolutely,
you're creating content.
we do.
Yeah.
And we're creating content. So it comes with the, so summer camp, for instance, we didn't outrightly say girls could not have their phones. We put the expectation out there that they were self-aware around their phone usage. And if it became an issue during session, then they knew we would say something about it and ask them to put it away. But the whole point of our programs, we're not raising kids, we're raising adults. So we need to teach them to have some sort of, as the great prophet Ice Cube said, like an ability to check themselves before they wreck themselves, right? They have to be able to practice some sort of autonomy.
Yeah.
And with autonomy comes, great respect.
Great responsibility.
Respect and responsibility.
Sure.
So we set the foundation by saying, hey, this is our expectation of you. And if it becomes a problem, we'll absolutely make the call out. And I just want you to know that I, Mary, am going to have my phone out 24/7. And here's the reason why.
Right.
I'm creating content. I'm still really
do as I say, not as I do.
We could no. So it was very open. The dialogue was very open in saying, if I have my phone out, here is why my phone is out. I'm still engaged. I'm still listening to you, but I'm also, this is what being a business owner looks like, girls. So yes, are we your camp directors? We absolutely are. And we love that. But we're also on the back end of this. This is what owning a business looks like. So we have to then go and create the Instagram posts and tell the stories and then send emails to your parents and have that kind of communication. So it was trying to really loop them in on all fronts. But yes, obviously girls are seeing creators like Alex Earl make it big. I mean, literally last year at this time, she had 100,000 followers.
No,
100,000 followers. now she has nearly 6 million followers. And we see a story like that and we think that it can be us, especially because she's been so relatable throughout this entire journey. She's really just hitting a hemisphere where she's kind of unrelatable at this point. And I think that came out this last week where she was dressing for the Miami Dolphins game. And she was like, I look like I'm going to pick up my kids from school. There were so many duets of mom, oh my God, dressed in their sweatpants and their hair up in a messy bun, being like, who's going to tell her? Like, who's going to tell her that that is not, that's not what we look like going to pick up our kids
only
from
we
school.
looked like that.
So good.
So I really, it's funny because I was scrolling on TikTok the other day. I do a lot of research and development there. And I scrolled across somebody who runs a PR agency, and they're like, man, I hate to break it to you, but you don't become an influencer and get rich. You are rich and then become an influencer. Like, there is a very small percentage of people who actually make content and create wealth for themselves. It is a really hard thing to break into. Obviously, like you pointed out, you'll have to have an incredible work ethic. You have to have discipline and understand when you need to meet deadlines and things like that. So kids are seeing the glamorous side of it. They're seeing the events and the free product that they're getting. But what they're not understanding is usually Alex Earle came from a fair amount of wealth already. So it was easy for her to be, you know, buying all the best makeup to do her get ready with me. So she already had the clothes and was trying them on. Brands began to see her and take advantage of what was already there. It's a lot more difficult for a regular person to break into what influencing and content creation looks like. Now, do I think the scope of that will continue to evolve and there will be more opportunities for kids who love creating content to work? Yes, absolutely. It doesn't always have to be so crowd facing and 6 million followers on TikTok. It can be for a brand behind the scenes, more of a job in that way. But we are very, very realistic with our girls in terms of what that looks like and whether that would serve them or not. We ask them always to lay the foundation of education first and really asking themselves the question of what their skill set is, what their interests are, follow those breadcrumbs. Like, don't just stop it at content creation. What else lights you up? So really making sure that they understand that they have several outlets. They're talented. They're very multifaceted, and to not turn any of those spouts off, because that could be the thing that really blossoms for them.
Yeah, I love that so much. And when you were talking before about self-awareness, for me, for the person who's like, I don't even know how to become self-aware, it's like, for me, the practice of being self-aware comes in the silence. It comes in the pause. It comes in the quiet, whether that's going for a walk, whether that's meditating, whether it's journaling. It's like when you slow down is, for me at least, how I'm able to become more self-aware, because we're just always rushing on to the next thing, moving the finish line, thinking about what we're going to say. It's like, why do so many adults not remember other people's names when they introduce themselves to you? Because you're already thinking about what you're going to answer. You're not actually listening to what the person is saying. You're not present, right? So there's this art of and science of practicing being present. And for me, some of the content creation resistance comes in from, if I'm creating, then I'm not present. And I know for us, when we lived in the RV, people were constantly saying, like, you guys should have a YouTube channel. Why aren't you posting this everywhere? Why aren't you blogging everything? Oh my God, like the motorhome company, they could be sponsoring you and sending you stuff for free. And we had to sit with that for a minute and say, that is all true. And we know how to do that. That's literally what we teach. And it could feel easy and effortless, but it was a decision that we made, like hard line in the sand. We wanted to be present on our journey and our hikes. And I didn't want to have to take a drone and like capture the footage and bring an outfit to change it into at the end of the hike, because spoiler alert, that's actually what these travel bloggers and content creators are doing. These, you know, these RV influencers or whatever it would be. And it was like, that's actually, I don't want to do that. As nice it would be to have the $2,000 a night hotel room for free in exchange for content. It's like, but I don't want to have to work while I'm there. I want to just be present in my life. So huge conversation. I feel like we're just cracking open and like just starting the conversation, but we're also approaching an hour, which is insane. So before we get into some just like quick rapid fire type of questions, where can people find you, pimp yourselves out? How can they work with you? What do you have going on that's exciting right now?
People can find us, friends, over on the Instagram at Girls Mentorship. So spelled totally normal, no crazy Y's or Z's. And same with our website. So girlsmentorship.com. We totally scored on all the handles. That is where you can find us. And truly, we love to build community, engage with new friends. Friends have been with us for a while, parents, girls, you name it. So come. We would appreciate it if you came and hung out with us there. Some exciting things that we're working on right now. So we've mentioned just a little bit that phase 2 of Girls Mentorship is really on the rise, and we're taking our in-person one-on-one program that we've been doing for the last three years, specifically with girls, and we're going to build out a group online coaching container.
Some might say it's our own digital business evolution, akin to the podcast we're on.
Plug there. So we also are going to build that out soon. I mean,
well, by the time you're listening
by
to
the
this,
time you're
it's
listening
built.
to
It's
it.
Yeah.
built. You will find freebies, you will find previews, all the things on our website and on our socials of what's
Yeah.
dropping come January, because we will be launching our first coaching session that second week of January, when kids are getting ready to go back to school and need the tools and skills so much.
So we're gonna have stuff for moms, we're gonna have stuff for girls. So please, 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 if this conversation really resonated with you and you're like, oh, I need it for myself as a mom or a parent, or oh my gosh, my daughter, this is definitely something up our alley. We would love for you to check it out and be a part of it. It's going to be really exciting.
I love it. Or even if you're a boy mom like you, but you have someone in mind
Oh,
that does have a
absolutely.
daughter, please share it out.
100%.
All
Yeah.
right, you ready for some rapid fire?
Couldn't be more ready.
Bring it, sis.
Okay. First one is for Jill. So I just have to know, out of my own, selfish need, when are you bringing back That's So Cringy? Because that was like my favorite little series that you girls did. And if you don't even remember what I'm talking about, you had
Oh my God,
you
yes.
had girls
Yeah.
submit what their
Right,
parents do
yes.
that was cringy, and then you read them, but you read them in a way that was it was so hilarious. So when are you bringing it back?
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, funny that you say that, because we actually did a part 2 of that in summer camp. So we have some new, fresh cringe answers that, now that you brought that up, we might have to put a little montage together
Love it.
for a part 2.
I love it. Mary, what is a habit that you started that changed your life?
Oh man. Let's see. Positive affirmations. I've got sticky notes all over the place. My mirror in my room, my mirror in my bathroom. Little stuff. What you say to yourself matters. So your mantras, really, your affirmations, I feel like, create your world, and it's proven itself over and over and over again. To add on to that, I would say going to church. So my relationship with God has 1000% changed my life.
Yeah. Love it. Jill, what's something that you're personally going through right now, a transition or an evolution or a challenge, something that you're feeling a little stuck on?
Oh, constantly working through boundaries and setting them. And again, the people pleasing tendencies that I'm noticing. So constantly just working on my boundaries with in my personal life, in my professional life, being okay to really assess what I need and being able to communicate it and not expect that other people should read my mind.
Yeah. Love that.
Yeah.
Love that.
That's what I'm working on.
Good. If you were to give a TED Talk on something that you are not known for, what topic would it be?
Let's see. What am I not known for? I feel like people know I could talk to a lamppost and it would talk back. So not that. I spend a lot of time alone. And I don't think people know that. I live alone. I obviously work for myself now. So I spend a lot of time alone. So I think being comfortable in the silence, being comfortable just being by yourself, because we so often reach out towards other people. We fill the silence with white noise. So being like navigating what it's like to be by yourself.
I love that. It's
I do
such an
too.
important skill. Yeah.
It's really beautiful. This is a really good question. What's coming up for me is I would love to talk about balance, and not finding the perfect balance, but being yourself in all of the roles that you wear.
Yeah.
Motherhood, entrepreneurialism, or entrepreneurship.
Is that a word?
I don't know. I don't know. It is now. I was like, yes.
I'm out of
I love that.
Entrepreneurialism. The art of creating new words.
The art of creating new words.
It's a great book
whatever,
title.
yeah, I would say something about balance, but being yourself, like being okay to show up in all areas of your life, being you.
I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of hoping you were gonna say like monkey training or like banana bread or just something so ridiculous, because this conversation has been pretty like serious, and how I know both of you is just so
That's
fun
so
and goofy.
funny. Well, now that you say that, I'm like, I don't know.
Overhosting. She would give a TED talk on overhosting. How to really overdo it when somebody comes over. Do you need a drink? And their drink is full. The bathroom's right down here, and they're in the bathroom. Like, Jill is the best overhoster I know.
I love it.
Can I
love it.
Food? Can I take it and throw it away for you?
I love it.
Leave me alone.
All right, ready? Last two. So first one, and this is for both of you. What are you currently binging on Netflix, or what was a recent binge?
I'll let you go.
Okay.
I don't binge Netflix.
I know you don't. I do.
Yeah.
I just got done watching the Jewel. I can't remember the name of it. The Rise and Fall of
JUUL.
The vape company.
Not the 90s singer.
Yes. For parents out there, and really even for entrepreneurs, this is an awesome docuseries. It was phenomenal.
Cool.
And really enlightening. So I'd say that one.
Are you listening or reading something? Listening to or reading something, Mary, if you don't binge Netflix?
I am always listening to something podcast wise. I mean, I'm on like my 12th read of Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. And I know you'll love that. But like, I can't get over just Joe Dispenza and how amazing he is. Yeah. So that I will always binge that, I feel like. Yeah. So we'll go there.
I love it. If I were to cut you a check and write you $50,000 that you had to use in or on the business tomorrow, you can split it up or do it in one lump sum. How would you girls allocate the funds? And you don't have to agree on it.
Oh, we're hiring out like right away. So Zone of Genius, that's not ours. We're bringing people on board to help us facilitate graphic design, website design, copywriting, marketing, all of those experts that we are not, we're doing that. So the address you can send that check to.
Oh, I love our brains too, because we spoke with a fractional CFO to come in and align our processes and systems. How do we work more efficient? And she gave us a proposal, and I was like, okay, that money would definitely go out to hire her to support us in working smarter, not harder, baby.
I love it. And then our final question, you kind of already answered this, so I'm going to ask you to do it on the personal side of things, not so much the business side of things, but we named the company Digital Business Evolution because we believe that you're always evolving and growing. And as you do, so does your business, because it's a reflection of you. So what is your next personal evolution? And that's for both of you.
Oh, Mary in the future. Mary in the future. I feel like Mary right now is living not in lack. I don't want to say that because my mindset is always on abundance, but I feel like I have struggled my entire life to see abundance based on what I was programmed to believe for the upbringing that I had. So it's been a really huge, I've taken on a ginormous task of flipping my perspective and retraining my brain to see abundance everywhere. So This girl has zero debt. That fridge is full. The mornings are slow. The house is a true home and it's wonderfully furnished. And the next bill that comes out isn't going to make or break her. It is handled, honey. So the next evolution of Mary is not living in Maslow's hierarchy of needs. She's beyond that foundation of what are my needs? What are my immediate needs? She's beyond that.
Well, as the young girls say, I love that for you.
I love that.
I'll be in my Maslow's era.
Okay. I too feel that. Honestly, I loved, not that I'm not contributing to my family financially, but I want to contribute in a way that I am like, I have an old car and I want to I want to be able to buy myself things that, I can be like, I worked so damn hard for this. I'm currently driving a rental and it makes me feel bad and bougie, and I'm okay owning that. But it's creating this like different persona for me. And I'm like, this is what I want to manifest. This is what I'm working hard for. I want to give my kids and my family generational wealth. And we're working hard for that. And that's the evolution and the next version of who we're becoming.
I love it. I love you both so much. As you said before, you're over at Girls Mentorship. So as always, if you love this episode and you had a little breakthrough, an aha moment, just something that you loved, or honestly, if you just want to connect with Jill and Mary and let them know how much you appreciate the work that they're doing, because it is work that needs to be done, take a screenshot of the episode, share it on social media, tag me at I am Jessica DeRose, and tag the girls over at Girls Mentorship. The reason that we want you to do this, of course, is so that we know what you're loving, but more importantly, so that we can personally reach out to you and connect with you and say thank you in the DMs. As always, my friends, in the DMs, in the jams, meet me in the jams. Thank you both for being here. I love you. I adore you. I can't wait to see you in person in Scottsdale.
Can't wait, girl. We can't wait either.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Cheers to your evolution. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you loved this episode, I invite you to be a part of our ripple effect and share it with a friend. And please, if you feel called, take 30 seconds to leave a 5-star review, and I'll be forever grateful. Until next time, cheers to your evolution.